It's up to you, New York, New York.
Good morning, good Friday morning. It's the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Richie. Got a couple of segments this morning that I'm going to be hitting on, starting with Aaron Judge tying the Yankee Clipper, Joe DiMaggio, on the franchise list for all-time home run leaders. Aaron Judge has been on fire, and yesterday, Judge hits two more home runs in a 9-3 salvage series win over the Detroit Tigers. Yankees lost the first two convincingly, but yesterday get a small measure of revenge as they keep their American League championship hopes alive in the Eastern Division, as they are still trying to catch the Toronto Blue Jays. Um, I'll tell you, I think when you look at the greatest sluggers of all time, Aaron Judge, checks the box, so to speak, on every metric. And that's in the history of baseball. But I often tell people that have their gripes with the Hall of Fame, if you want to feel a little better, just go to Monument Park and you're not going to have any arguments about what you see in there. But this is a guy that's steady climbing the list, and now you're looking at names like the Iron Horse, Lou Gehrig, and the great Bambino Babe Ruth. Truly incredible where Aaron Judge is going with this. Tonight, the Yankees welcome in the Boston Red Sox, a team that has had the Yankees number all year, and this is a massive, massive series of importance, as the Yankees and Red Sox are essentially neck and neck and both still within striking distance of the Blue Jays. But I expect an exciting series, as they're going to be in Fenway this time around. Luis Gil on the bump for the New York Yankees. So yesterday, I hit my parlay, but man, did it take a couple of things to really turn into my favor. I'm gonna let this garbage guy get out of my cul-de-sac, and then I'm gonna continue what I'm saying here. Not gonna compete with that noise. For the second night in a row, the Seattle Mariners outlast the Los Angeles Angels. 2 nights ago, 13 innings. Yesterday, 12 innings. And although the Angels are not in the playoffs, the Mariners were playing for a situation where they can tie for first in the American League West. And it did have the playoff atmosphere. You give the Angels credit for bringing a great effort, although they're not going to be in the playoffs, trying to make it difficult for a division rival. And that game had a little bit of everything. And, you get a really strong performance from your starter. But what ultimately hurts is that now the bullpen is just getting severely taxed. So, to the gambling heads out there, I would say that I'm confident that the Angels probably win today. Not that they didn't have to dip into their bullpen as well, but the Mariners are really exhausted on that part of their team right now. So I'm going to say that I think the Angels would be more favorable if anyone's going to pick in that direction. American League playoffs heating up, and I've said it on previous shows. No one is really standing out as the absolute positive team that's going to get it done right now, and it's exciting. It's very exciting to see how this all shaped up in the final weeks of the season as playoff seeding is going to be decided. And as I alluded to with the Yankees, if the season ended today, it would be the Boston Red Sox in a best of three series. And when you consider that the Yankees have lost 7 out of 9 thus far against the Red Sox, that's not what you want. Yankees, however, did win the final matchup they played against them, which propelled them into a pretty good winning streak. And they've been relatively hot since. So, gonna be fun. Fenway Park. I think what's good for baseball is that both these teams are bringing it back. You know, the dislike is back. The rivalry is slowly but surely coming back, and that's when Major League Baseball is at its best. When the Red Sox and the Yankees are at each other's throats. New York Mets squandering a 4-0 lead yesterday. That was another thing that helped win my parlay as the Philadelphia Phillies prevailed 6-4. And the Phillies are not just looking like the eventual National League East champions, but they are looking like a team that very well may be World Series bound if they just keep finding a way. Walker Buehler, who's had an offseason and things did not work out in Boston, will be taking the bump for the Philadelphia Phillies in tonight's game. New York Mets focus their attention at home against the Texas Rangers. And the real story of this particular game, Jacob deGrom, the longtime Met great who the Mets chose to not bring back, wins the World Series without really contributing his first year in Texas. He gets Tommy John surgery this year. He has been sensational, as the Rangers still have postseason hopes as well. I am curious to see what kind of reception deGrom receives in Queens, but I have to imagine it would be a standing ovation, as he was always a fan favorite while a member of the New York Mets. And those New York Mets are sliding. If the Mets are not careful, they can completely play themselves out of wild card contention. And, you know, they've been having some issues with the pitching staff as they're starting to look into reassess if Clay Holmes is even starter worthy at this point. I remember going back to the beginning of the year when I saw that Clay Holmes was going to be starting. I myself was a little skeptical, being that, he was an embattled former closer for my New York Yankees. So the Mets right now, definitely a team that is got a lot of question marks, and it seems like more questions than answers right now. And that's not what you want when you're going into the postseason push. Going to shift our attention to the NFL for a second. Thursday Night Football. The Green Bay Packers improved to 2-0 on the season as they defeat the Washington Commanders in a game that was a lot closer, not as close, rather, as the score would suggest. I got to say, man, through 2 weeks against two pretty good offenses, this Green Bay defense just looks different. They look like a championship caliber team. And, tight end standpoint, Kraft is killing it right now. Right now, he is atop the fantasy rankings for tight ends. I give Washington credit for fighting and sticking around. But truthfully, I'm not surprised at the outcome, because when I consider that the New York Giants did next to nothing on offense and they were within a score of defeating the Commanders in week one, I knew that the Packers, especially after the way they slapped around the Detroit Lions, I knew that they were going to be up for the task. And Green Bay, after the Parsons addition, is my NFC pick. The Bills are my AFC pick, and right now, in the super early going, it looks like that could potentially be a thing in February. Um, Still waiting for Matthew Golden to kind of assert himself into this offense, as he is a guy that I've started for a second consecutive week in fantasy. Going to have to reassess that, as Jordan Addison, fortunately, will be coming off suspension after week 3. So that could kind of be a problem that kind of solves itself. But Packers look good. Defense was everywhere. On an unfortunate note, running back Austin Eckler tore his Achilles last night. That will probably, more than likely, be a season-ending injury. And while it's beneficial for the fantasy heads who have Krosky Merritt, never something that you want to see go down. Zach Ertz, ageless wonder, even in defeat, having a pretty good game overall. And the connection with Jaden Daniels, I think, has definitely added some wings to his career, so to speak. So the Commanders, they have a loss. Cowboys have a loss. Giants have a loss. Commanders, of course, have a win, however. So this is an opportunity this weekend for either the Cowboys or the New York Giants to pick up some ground on the Commanders in the early going, as that is most definitely going to be a must-win for each team. I said it on my preview show. I'm leaning towards the Cowboys getting the dub, although I am a New York Giants super fan, but I call it down the middle. I think the Cowboys looked a lot more solid in their week 1 defeat than the Giants did. The big surprise for me with the Cowboys is how well their defense played despite not having Micah Parsons. And, they got some guys that have yet to return as well. So right now, Dallas Cowboys, to me, looking like a team that, they're going to be punching. Javonte Williams proving to be a pretty good pickup, as he's been looking good in limited duty. It's only one game in. But in order for the New York Giants to win and push my logic on its face, the Giants are absolutely going to have to protect better. They were not able to keep the heat off of Russell Wilson, and they were also not able to spring anything for any valuable runs. They did have their opportunities. Malik Neighbors is going to catch passes no matter who's throwing the ball. He did it last year with poor quarterback play. We have a better quarterback room right now, but Russell Wilson has got to be better with his progressions. And I also want to see a larger snap share for Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter needs to be on the field a lot more. I know it was his first game, but he needs to be on the field a lot more. Giants have to, water the grass, so to speak, on what their biggest strength is. But that's about it for now. Got to congratulate Aaron Judge, man. When I think about these legends that keep getting tied and ultimately getting jumped by the current Yankee captain, it's nothing short of incredible. And the one thing that truly eludes Aaron Judge, and the one thing missing on his resume, is that huge October ultimately culminating in a World Series victory. Because once Aaron Judge does that, he essentially has done it all. I would hate to see Aaron Judge go out like another popular Yankee captain, my favorite player of all time, Don Mattingly, who arguably was the best offensive player in Major League Baseball in the 1980s. After severe back ailments, his power numbers took a significant hit, as did just his overall production in the first half of the 90s, when he ultimately retired after a very iconic original wild card series against Ken Griffey Jr.'s Seattle Mariners, one of the best series in the history of Major League Baseball. And according to some accounts of people who attended the game 2 I'm referring to, when Sierra and Mattingly went back to back, particularly the Mattingly home run, my father was in attendance that night. I happened to be in Florida that night. But accounts are that the old Yankee Stadium was never louder. And when you consider all the moments that went down there, that is pretty significant. And at that juncture of his career, Mattingly was no longer a home run hitter. But he had a series for the ages because I think deep down he knew that was going to be the final go for him to have a World Series chance. And, people that remember that era of Yankees baseball and love Don Mattingly will always be sad for the sheer fact that the year before, it seemed like the New York Yankees were destined to go to the World Series and play the Montreal Expos in the World Series that never was. Of course, I'm referring to the 94 strike. Big shouts out go to my guy, Mr. Johnny Nast. He's been joining our show a lot more regularly right now as he's getting things building up for his show, The Sports Corner. He's been showing us a lot of love, and we're going to be returning the favor, showing him and our guy Joe Gal some love on their show as they're going to be doing their previews, to my understanding, on Tuesdays. So definitely make it a point to check out the Sports Corner with Mr. Nast. Also, check out the V Mix, the Vicious Mix with our guy here at the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast, Mr. Idris Salam, doing what he does best, which is just mix great music. One of the things he does great. Idris wears many hats. Zappy hit me up yesterday, and I told him I had to do the show a little earlier this week because of other schedules. But Zappy will be coming back around in the near future as well. If you haven't already, please make it a point, like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. One last thing I want to say, Aaron Judge having that kind of performance on that day, 24 years since the tragedy, 9/11. Um, Judge has always had a propensity for stepping up on that particular day. I'll take it back to 2021, the 20th anniversary, and he took Jesus Familia deep um, with the deciding home run. There's a couple of things that Judge does. He usually hits a home run every time I see him play, but he's also got a flair for the dramatic. I just hope that we get to see this great player do it in October. It's something that eluded so many before. Alex Rodriguez finally got the monkey off his back in 2009, which culminated in the Yankees' 27th World Series title. Number 28, definitely within reach. So we'll see what happens. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And I might be back for some hot takes prior to Sunday's NFL action. Maybe throw in a couple of fantasy hints. I'm out.